Hi, and welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte. On this week's show, Governor Murphy extends the moratorium on utility bills, but there is a mounting crisis, and you may end up paying the bill. We talk with Stephanie Brand, director of the New Jersey Rate Counsel. Legalized marijuana is expected to pass easily in New Jersey. We talk with a CEO who is anxious to do business in the state. A student who was kicked out of a virtual class for displaying a Donald Trump sign talks with us about the experience and what's next in his fight for free speech. And how far would you walk to save your son's life? James Raffone is walking over 200 miles. We'll join him on his walk. But first, my interview with Stephanie Brand, director of the New Jersey Division of Rate Counsel. So those who were concerned about the moratorium ending on October 15th, on the day we're actually taping this, they don't have to worry anymore.
Well, not for now. Certainly the moratorium has been lifted, and I think that's great. That's really wonderful. And it gives us time until next spring to really get a handle on what people owe, how we can figure out a way to help them pay their bills and make sure that even after the moratorium ends in March, that they don't get shut off.
So what is the date for the moratorium now?
I believe it's through to next March 15th.
You said something very important, and you said that people have an opportunity now to catch up. Are you concerned that people, because they had this moratorium, weren't paying the bill, and the bill doesn't go away? And as a matter of fact, the bill continues to mount. Right. And it could get to the point where it's so onerous, they're not going to be able to pay it at all.
Oh, that's absolutely true. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of we need to take this time that we now have and figure out where, how big is the bill? How much of it will people be able to pay off once they're employed again, which hopefully will happen. But there are going to be some that can't pay it. Even after March 15th. And so we need to match them up with assistance programs. We might need to get more assistance than we have right now. We need to take this time and use it productively to figure out who really needs our help, because even with the extension of the moratorium, they're still not going to be able to pay their bill. So the utilities will offer them a payment plan. So if it's a question of just needing to spread out the payments, they can certainly sign up. In fact, the first call should be to the utility to see what they can work out with them. There are also, though, assistance programs, and the utilities have information on that. Our office does, and the Board of Public Utility, most especially, has information where people might be able to get assistance if they really can't afford to pay both their current bill and their arrearages.
I read, and I'm certain that you have better information than most of us in the media, but I did read a media report at one point that they said for consumers it was up to $444,000, and for businesses it was up to $43,000. So we're talking about, when you combine businesses and consumers, 500,000 people.
Yes, we are. And we don't even know if there are more people coming. We see the unemployment numbers going up and down, and the same could happen with the arrearage numbers. They're kind of tied together. So that's something we absolutely have to get a handle on. We're hoping that we'll be able to get the information from the utilities. And again, people are going to fall into different buckets, right? There's going to be some people who are just having a moment, a current moment problem paying their bill. Those people could probably take advantage of some of the programs we have that give kind of a one shot of relief so that they can then get back on track. But there are going to be some people who are going to be so deep in a hole that just adding a payment plan on top of the cost of their current bills, they're still not going to be able to pay. And so those people are going to have to look at different types of assistance programs to see if we can help them. But yeah, we're talking about a lot of people, and with businesses too. They're even in greater difficulty because, it's going to depend on the course of this virus.
Are we looking for additional funding for these programs right now? Because I know, people can't pay their bills. The state can't pay their bills.
Right. Well, I know some states have used CARES Act money for this purpose. I don't know if New Jersey can do that, but that's something we need to look at. And hopefully at some point there'll be further assistance coming out of the federal government that we might be able to put towards this purpose. But yeah, I mean, it's a problem we're all going to have to deal with. The way that the rates work, if people can't pay their bills, normal levels of uncollectible bills are paid for by other ratepayers. So it's through something we call the societal benefits charge. And so we all pick up the tab, but it's a much smaller tab than we're seeing now. And so I don't know that we can do that. We can't simply put it on to other ratepayers because then they're going to not be able to pay their bills. So it's kind of a snowball. And so we have to get a sense of the scope of the problem, how much money we're talking about, how many people we're talking about, what buckets they fall into, and where we can find some source of funds to help those who really just aren't going to be able to pay.
I don't want people to misinterpret my smile. I wasn't smiling at the problem. I was smiling because that was exactly the next thing I was going to ask you about.
Yeah.
If these costs are going to be, there's a lot of people that are listening to this saying, well, that's not me. That's not happening to me. They may end up having to pay for some of this unless it's handled pretty quickly.
Right. And there are probably a lot of people who are just on the edge, right? So they're paying their bills, but they're still struggling to meet all their monthly obligations. If their bills then go up in order to pay for the people who are in arrears, they could get pushed over that line. And that's what we need to try to avoid.
Is it your belief right now that rates are going to go up because of this?
I don't know. I think that we're going to have to see whether we can come up with another source of funds. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if ratepayers have to absorb at least part of it.
You know, it's important to point out, I don't think we do it enough, and we've had you on several times, what the division does, what your job is when these things happen, because I think that's important, especially with the problems we're looking at.
Yeah, we serve as the voice for consumers, for utility consumers. We don't represent individual consumers, but we serve as a single voice for all of them. The theory is that no single customer is going to be able to take on the utilities when they come in for a rate increase. So our office exists to do that. And we have about 15 lawyers. We have a bunch of consultants that we use that are experts in their field. And we go toe to toe with the utilities when they come in asking for rate increases or new programs. And we endeavor to be an effective voice for the customers.
So what are you looking at now? I know you said we have to take this time to just assess how much people owe and how much the total bill might be for the utilities that may be passed on to others or may have to be paid for by the state. You're looking at that right now. Do you get people in place? Do you get ready for a fight at the end of all this?
So we already filed a petition with the Board of Public Utilities asking them to open an investigation so that we can get the information we need. And usually when you have an open docket and an investigation, it means that they'll bring everyone to the table. And that way we can sit down and try to talk about solutions. We already filed that a couple of weeks ago, and we're asking the board to do a variety of things, including one of the things we asked for was an extension of the moratorium. We don't need that anymore. Thankfully, we got that from the governor. But we also need to dig deeper and figure out how much is owed, who owes it, how do we help these people. So we've already filed that. There's a docket, and hopefully the board will now move forward, either with an investigation or some form of proceeding where we can start to dig in and come up with solutions.
I know we got deep into the weeds and we talked about some possibilities, but that the good news, the headline right now is that people that are having trouble paying their utility bills will have now till March 15th.
Yes, the governor has given us a reprieve and he's made sure. I mean, we were hearing from a number of people over the last couple of weeks, very scared about October 16th coming, and they don't need to fear that anymore. They will have heat this winter. So we're very relieved that the governor issued this order.
Thank you so much for spending time with us and what you do. And please, would like to talk again, especially when March comes close.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Stephanie Brand, Director of the New Jersey Division of Rate Counsel. When Jersey Matters comes right back, we'll take a walk with a man who is trying to find a cure for his son's disease. That's next.